Imagine jumping out in the morning, waking up, pulling aside the curtains, and that is the view you get. Imagine then gulping down your breakfast, just so that you can run outside and run across this giant field, into the vineyard, across the vineyards, and climbing olive trees. Imagine then growing your own carrots, pulling it out of the ground, shaking off the soil, and then chasing rabbits, and then only so that you can grab them and stroke them because they're so soft. And everyone likes soft things, right? Now, I didn't have to imagine that because for 2 years of my life, I grew up on this farm. It's called Colle Mattia. It's in Italy. I was very, very blessed. It was an incredible period of my life. And this is my dog, my pet. I was 6 years old then. It's just a big creature. And one of the most vivid memories is my dad deciding that we have to give him a bath. And when you have a German Shepherd who does not like water, that's not an easy task. So we ended up having to take him, and then my dad had to jump into to this big tank with him, and then everyone got really, really wet, even I, just watching. That was wonderful. And then we had to move back to the city. And then this is what followed. Well, not exactly this, but similar. You can imagine it's a very different life. I want to read something from someone we all share, a mutual friend. From childhood, I have had a gift of being able to resonate with the sounds of nature as I roam around the hills and meadows. Nature creates a single harmony that produces a sound that is magnificent and beautiful. No one tries to show off, and no one is ignored. There is just a supreme harmony. Whenever I find myself in difficulty, nature comforted me. Whenever I collapsed in despair, it raised me back up. I've been developing a vision for the past 5 years, and now I feel ready to share it with you. It has 4 pillars, as above, and I will now present them in turn and explain how it all relates. So the first one is our children's well-being. Now, some of you here, I can hear them, have little ones, or some have them on the way. We have a young family. That's Dante, the little boy, 2 years old, and then that's Zara, 6 months old. And my son, at the moment, has a favorite sentence, and it goes like this. Dante, do it! Dante, do it! No help! Daddy, no help! And his very active temperament, he loves doing things by himself. And without going through the details of the various developmental stages in children, it's wonderful. I really enjoyed the freedom. So the first pillar is that Hazel and I want to create an environment where our children can explore nature and discover things freely by themselves. The second pillar is our parents. So, meet our parents, Hazel's and mine, and they may not look like it, because, I mean, look at them, they look great, aren't they? But they're getting old. And it's coming, right? So we asked, I have to ask myself a question. How can we look after our parents? And the answer to that question is very similar, at least on my side is, how do I want to grow? How do I want to be looked after? And when you're growing up and young, and you don't really think about this stuff. It's just, you just go with life. But as you get your first backache from carrying Dante for too long, then you immediately start thinking like, how do I want to grow old? And my answer wasn't that, which actually seems to be the predominant answer in the UK anyway. Not saying that that's wrong, but it's not my answer. Then it hit me one day that actually you can turn a challenge into a unique opportunity. Because grandparents, I heard this on Radio 4, grandparents who raise and are actively involved with their grandchildren contribute to their well-being. And also, there is the reciprocal relationship, we have heard that one before, on grandparents, where their aging slows down because they have, again, purpose, they have reason to be, they have to change this 2-year-old who is very, very fast. So that's the second pillar. The third element is nature. We want to create an environment where we can live in harmony with nature and also sustainably, so that it can be perpetuated for generations to come. This place is called Hockerton. It is in Nottinghamshire, in the Midlands. And 25 years ago, it was an agricultural site, a protected greenbelt. And then a group of families decided that they want to create a co-housing project. And so, after a few years, they obtained planning permission for 5 houses, which are those in the top right, in that site. So you can see there's a pond, which is great. I mean, who doesn't want to wake up and see a pond outside with little ducks flowing? It's like living in a park with a house, not like a tent. And we went there 2 years ago and were incredibly inspired and saw how this could link in with our life, with what we want to do. Actually, it's not, and I don't know if there's any keen Agricola players, but if you were to do that in Agricola, you would score very many points, wouldn't you, Alice? So it's beautiful. Now, but for me personally, I'm equally passionate about the other elements of sustainability, not just being in close touch with nature and having a low waste and low carbon footprint, also socially and economically sustainable. So socially means that there is a well-being element built into it, which is interactions with others, with different ages. And economically is that, for example, Hockerton have a business model where they engage with the surrounding community. They hosted I think the 2006 sort of budget announcement, which was a lot of green measures. So the BBC went there and presented it from their site because they felt it was very fitting. So you can have an impact. The final pillar is spiritual growth. So you have a beautiful and inspiring natural and surrounding environment, and couple that with a shared passion to discover truth. Favorite quotes is, one of my favorite quotes goes like this: a life unexamined is not worth living. Because you lose it, you lose the point. It's from Socrates. Great. I'm a great fan. What we mean by this is we have a shared tradition for reading and studying. You might know it as Bundoke. And to ensure that is exciting and interesting, we want to do it in a way where we have the courage to ask questions and also the faith to pursue answers to those questions. No questions should be taboo. But equally, we should always maintain the relentless drive to seek to find answers to them. It's not for the sake of questioning, it is to find answers. So, you might be thinking, that's nice, why don't you just do that? Why community? Why do you need such a thing? The answer is twofold. A community can have a greater impact in the world than a single family. And like Hockerton has demonstrated, you really can look outward and embrace and guide others and inspire others. Simon actually suggested, for example, you could have some sort of like 6 months house where people come and live there for 6 months. So you can have an impact, an influence on others. The second point is something we heard of earlier in the announcement. It's a concept called economies of scale. So it's a difficult project, this. However, every additional group of families that joins it decreases the price for everyone. So that means that it becomes more achievable, right? Like the workshop announcement, right? Every further person that goes, we can reduce the cost for everyone. So, yeah, you can tell I'm a nerd. Anyway, so the next question you're probably thinking about is, what are you actually proposing to do? So we wrote down 7 things that we hold dear to us. However, these can change. It depends really on what the group decides. So let's go through them. Well, you need some place, some space where you can build. I think that field looks just fine, but again, it can be up for debate. We need to build some houses. We can establish a homeschooling association, but we can find a good school. It is really up for us to define. Homeschooling association would have the benefit that we can ensure that the education is as good as we can give them, because who would want to give the best to their children? Then we can build some smaller granny annexes, and I think this enables the 3 generation. Oh, hello, Dante. You want to come to Daddy? Oh, come to Daddy. You could see I was struggling, so he wanted to help out a bit. All right. So, granny annexes, so that we can share this environment with our parents. We have tried actually to live in the same house, and it can be challenging. For some it may work, some may not need that, but it can be challenging for all sorts of reasons. The 5th objective is to establish some form of caring association, because again, looking after our parents, especially at some of the later stages in life, is very challenging and may require specialist skills. So if there was someone in that community who was trained in that, then potentially, there could be some form of care association to help community. The 6th is to live a sustainable lifestyle. This is what Hockerton does best, and it's incredible. They get their drinking water from a pond that is filtered and cleaned with reed. They don't require heating. They only require energy for warm water. And I can go on about this all day. It's very exciting. And the last but not least is a community hall. It would be great to have a place where you can come together, a bit like this, right? Where you can come and put on plays, have meetings, play board games, whatever you want to do, right? A community hall to foster that social aspect. So, what next? You might ask. Now I came prepared. So, we want to go to a visit with anyone else who is inspired, is intrigued by this. Or even if you just, I think this is never going to work, but I'm going to go, that's fine too. So we want to go visit Hockerton at some point this year to see if it inspires you equally. Then we want to, with everyone who's interested, we want to gather what it is that you care about. How do you, in the visit, if you could draw from scratch, how would you want to live life? And that is the basis of a constitution, which is essentially saying what it is that we hold dear. So that's what we're going to do. And that statement at the bottom is an idea that Hazel and I jotted down of what we feel is a starting point. But again, it is subject to change, because at the end of the day, all of this is defined by those who come together, depending on our interests. So the vision practically is to develop a spiritual community of blessed families that embodies love in our conduct and growth as individuals, in our relationships with family and friends, and the wider society, and living in harmony with nature, protecting it for future generations.
So I've got a few questions for Gary, and then also we want to open the floor to all of you. And yeah, I mean, Gary, one thing I wanted to start with was that many people might think this project is a pipe dream, a dream too far. But I know that you're someone who entered into this Wolfson Economic Prize competition, and I don't think you can just see that as any old competition, because you ended up winning £250,000, and through that being able to not only give some money to a project that you were researching, but also to buy a home for your young family that you just made with Hazel. And so just looking at how feasible this is in terms of your previous experiences winning that prize, were there any times when you were going through that you had any doubts or challenges?
That's a good question. One of my favorite quotes, I love quotes, but if you haven't noticed yet, I love quotes, okay? This is in the World Scriptures, and it says, to accomplish anything truly worthwhile, two things are necessary: perseverance and patience. You add those two up, you can do whatever you want. Now, with that in mind, Wolfson Prize challenges. Yeah, definitely. Actually, there was a lot of research that went into it, and we didn't have children yet. That gave some free time. And the most challenging part was actually at the very, very end, when you saw everyone else who all entered, and you thought, bloody hell, I'm never gonna, I pretty much wrote off like the top prize, and I said, in any case, I will be content with the sort of finalist prize, and I was absolutely flabbergasted when they said that I had won. So doubts come in all shapes and forms, and yeah, I certainly had mine. It's a recurring thing, and what you need again is going back to the basics. What it is, why do you want this? It's just showing you how much do you want something. I really want this. So I am determined that this is the way we want to live.
Okay. And another question I had was, when I met this movement, I think after the first week, I was sort of holed up in a house in New York. I've had the sense that I had to stay there for a while. That this wasn't going to be about going to church on a regular basis on a Sunday, but that actually this was about something much bigger, that this was something to do with having a calling in life. That was the sense that I got. So I wonder if obviously this is a project you want to do now, but as an individual, have you had experiences in your life where you felt a calling to do something? Is this something that you now feel is a calling for you for the long-term future? What would you say about calling in your, and how do you experience it? Is it in a dream, late at night, or when you're washing up, or where, maybe you can.
My experience was, yes, this was I was in the second year of this SDF. I'm sure you've heard of it. There was a 100K session with like 30 people with True Father, and it was the only time where I got up close to the man, and I pretty much slept through the entire. I was in the front row, yeah, and I'm not very good at early mornings. It's just not my thing, and I slept through 2 hours of it, and it was very embarrassing. It wasn't like continuous. Like I was trying to wake up, but which made it all the more obvious that what was going on. But nonetheless, I had time. As time goes on, you start to wonder whether this happened or I imagined it. But in any case, so it was. In a moment of alertness, True Father looked at me and said something along the lines, I want you to be like me, are the exact words that the translator put through, I think, the earpiece. And that struck me as something crazy, because that doesn't mean
You don't look very Korean.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point, right? It's not. I can't be exactly like you, but I can take something from how you live life about what I should live life like. And what I took from that is that I should, follow what I think is right and relentlessly pursue it, and not conform to my external surroundings. Which, I mean, I'm sure that if you read about his life, he's certainly not done. Whether you like or not, the rest is a separate matter. But he has not conformed to his external surroundings. He has, been breaking the mold, so to speak. And I want to do that. Yeah, that's my vision. I want to explore. I really like the sections where he's describing his early exploring. Learning is very important for me, and that I feel is my calling. I want to learn about the world and then implement things that I like about it, and then shape my environment that way.
Okay. I guess another question I was thinking about was that you could say it's a basic human instinct, almost an animal instinct, to protect what we have. And so you just started a family, but maybe a higher human feeling that we have is to belong somewhere or to belong to something. And another way of looking at that, maybe psychologically, is that we all fear being abandoned or lonely or experiencing loneliness. And I just wonder, of course, you're looking at how to raise your family and to, as you go through the different stages of life, to have a good experience at each level with your parents, with your children, as you get older. But how much are you not just shifting those problems out of the city and into the countryside? Why do you need to do this in a field? Why can't you do it in somewhere like Croydon, in some concrete jungle instead?
I think that's a spot-on question, and actually you can. So the answer to that is you can. You can. The 4 things that I brought up there, you can have it. You don't have to have all 4 of those elements. So you can drop the nature bit and do the other 3. That's fine too. You can choose to go on an outing on a weekend, and it's completely fine. I just think that actually those four interacting, the interactions between those four create new efficiencies or new things that are more than the component of those parts. So specifically nature, I think, there is a reason why many of these care homes are out in settings, because nature is just good for mental health, for resilience of old and young and us. So there is that very strong impact. Soft creatures are also very good for mental health. So there is that element. There is the element with what I started with, that children just want to go wherever they want to go, and of course they have to learn boundaries. It's natural, but if possible, I think our approach to parenting, and again, everyone. I'm not saying this is the right way. This is our way. Our approach to parenting has been trying to let them do as much as possible on their own, and then only interfere when required. And I think that environment would give a lot more space, physically and metaphorically, for their spirits. I think it's a very stimulating place to be.
Okay, good. Well, I've just got two more questions, then I want to open it up to everyone. So if you want to get your thinking going. One is about where, and one is about your wife, because obviously I'm sure she's going to be an important factor in all of this. So, but just about where, I mean, we have in our charity, as a result of one of our early members donating his ancestral home and land, a big farm, lots of cottages, and have you considered in some part maybe exploring how this could be done as a joint project with our FFWPU charity, whether they would want to champion this project as a way of allowing our members to show an example of what can be possible, and is that something you think you might explore or not? Or
yeah, definitely. So the answer to that question is that it's definitely possible. And you might notice that there's very, very, very few specifics. Like I don't know, for example, it's going to be here. The reason for that is very simple. Is that to be pragmatic, when it comes to like real estate, the location matters, because it needs to work for the people who are in it. And so far, we said that probably 5 or 6 families is around the right size. But who knows? If there is like loads, then we have to work around it. If there's less, then it can also work with less. So the size of the group means that it has to work for the group, right? I can't just say it's going to be here, because that it's already hard enough without me saying that. If I did say that, that would make it impossible, because the location has to work for people, right? So people come first, and the rest comes second. That's why there is no set constitution yet, because the people who want to do this, we the people, have to create that. So a location is exactly that. It needs to be a place that works for those who want to do it.
okay, great. And then talking about one of the people, which is Hazel, your wife. And we were talking downstairs, and I said to Hazel, do you want to come up and answer some of these questions as well? But I just asked her a couple down there, and she said, yeah, I've always doubted Gary many times, but he always, each time, seems to come good and accomplish what he sets out to do. Oh, I'd love to hear my wife say that.
She's gracious. She only remembers the ones where it actually worked out.
Yeah. And I mentioned this morning when I was leaving home, I said to my wife, she said, am I giving the message? I said, no, I'm interviewing Gary, who wants to build this eco-village. And she said, oh, are you planning to go? I said, no, I live here with you, darling. But obviously there's always a dynamic in a relationship, particularly when you share intimately with someone your whole life, hopefully, everything. Have you experienced in discussing this any challenges? Can you share something about the conversations you've had with Hazel? Has she said anything that's been challenging for you in this vision? And how does that work? Because that is one of the challenges ultimately, we all face. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were in Hungary not too long ago, and we had a very, very long late-night conversation, which was, I think, tense is the right word, especially at the beginning. Because we were discussing the elements of this, like the 4 components, and whether you need all 4, you could do maybe just 3, and you don't need the other one. And yeah, I think it's natural that there is disagreements. I mean, we're 2 different people. We're not the same person, right? We have different, and I think the beauty and excitement, and actually when it comes to 10 people potentially living in close proximity with more than your sort of normal neighborly interaction of how do you do? It's raining today, whatnot, or I'm going to drop the kids off, do you need something? Yeah. So when it goes beyond that, it's inevitable. There is going to be conflict. There is going to be disagreement. So what is very important is that how do we manage that? Are we able to express when something bothers us? Are we able to say, I find that really difficult? And then the other person is going to say, well, you should just put up with it, or are you going to say, wow, okay, I didn't realize that. Let's have a think about it, Let's try and find a solution. And I think there's many things like that when there can be a solution found. Maybe there are some where there isn't. But I think the beauty of that relationship is that it's one where you work together and sit down and have a real serious think about how we can solve it.
Great. Thanks, Gary. That's a good answer. Gary wants to ask in a minute, just you guys to shout some things out to help him, because as much as I'm hoping this maybe inspires people to think about their sense of community, I know, some people recently bought a barge on the Thames. I thought that was pretty innovative. But also this is to help him distill his vision and get more input. So
hi, I'm Melanie.
Hi, Mel.
How far along are you in the planning process? I know you said it's to do with the people, so you can't really choose a place or whatever, but have you got a very structured plan already in terms of finances and in terms of a few places you've actually thought that could work here, etc., or is it very infantile in the way that you're thinking this is more of an idea and we're going to research more now together with the people?
Yep, that's a good question. So I have thought about it. I am in it. My profession is economics and transport planning. I love transport, and I think one of the key things is access to employment, practically speaking. So wherever it is, it has to be with good access to employment in areas where whoever the group of people is, that everyone's skills, everyone can have a good and fulfilling work. I think it's very, very important. So yeah, that's a key requirement. Practically speaking, where that might be, I didn't put it up because it's too much information, but I was looking recently at some statistics, as you do, it's like what you do as an economist, and it was median house prices and median household incomes. And the ratios are very, very interesting to look at. It shows how many, effectively, what the ratio shows is how many years do you need to work to be able to entirely own your home. And that ratio in London is about I think 10 at the moment, which might surprise you because those are some pretty well-paying jobs. Those are, but. And other parts of the country, and that's actually very high. So historically, that is really, really quite high. other parts of the country, you can have that in 5, and you might think, oh, I don't know, I don't know what lies beyond the M25. I mean, it's, never been there. It's the world out there. More, I don't know. It's beyond the wall, with wildlings and all that. I don't know. It's not, we've spent some time in the Midlands. We've spent maybe about a year now in Manchester, so in an urban setting. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there for places. I mean, if it works for everyone, it's possible that it might be, somewhere where the movement already has learned if there is willingness. But again, it's not, it's not a fixed. It depends. And I don't. So I've thought about it a lot, but there's very little that I have actioned because it's not. There is the steps. I think there is an English saying, "Don't put the cart before the horse," isn't it? So I've tried not to do that.
I've got one question someone's typed up here, but so after that we'll just have one more question. So. You can compete for but put your hand up after this if you've got a question. This is about 5 questions, but I'll try and summarize. So, ideally, how many families or individuals? Time scale? Where would the funding for this project come? Would this be rented out to non-members when not full, e.g., Airbnb? Who will do the maintenance of cleanliness gardens? Pricing, would it be free for people who are struggling financially?
All right, there's a lot there. So I think we could just go back to question 1. What was the question 1?
How many families or individuals would it be held on time scale? Or maybe time scale is a good one.
How many families? So I've seen, so Hockerton has 5 houses and families. There's another one I went to with university which had 30. So it's possible to have a greater scale, but I think it's fair to aim for less because it's less complex. So probably in my mind it's between 5 and 7 probably. Yeah.
Okay, great. So any more questions? Jason and Miho. Each other. So quick questions and short answers now.
Thank you, Gary. Steph and myself have been talking a lot about 3-generation households over the past 4 years as well, and I can see how that solves a lot of problems. In terms of the end goal of this community, this movement, what do you see as kind of the end state that you want to get into in terms of people who aren't in this community influencing the world and all of those sorts of things?
It's a very good question. Essentially, you're wondering whether this is a bit like sort of, picking a group of people and then just going off and living your thing, secluded from the world and that sort of stuff. I think there is a balance. There's a balance to be struck there. There's a balance because it's easy to lose yourself if you are too much overwhelmed by your environment. And so this is certainly an attempt to push it a bit forward towards that end. But I think our challenge then is going to be to make sure that we don't go too far, right? So it has to, and the way, for example, Hockerton does it is that part of the planning permission was that they would establish a business for the community and they would employ the community. And that business has grown a lot, and today it involves all sorts of, so the community hall, again, can be rented out for like, I don't know, Tai Chi, various activities, and they have seminars where they teach people how to do these things. And I think likewise that is a great way to expand it. I haven't constrained it. I haven't decided. I haven't gone there where I think, oh, this is really what we should do later on, because there's many things before, and it depends on the skills and passions of people who come together. I think Hockerton's one of the big one of the things that stuck out is that in Hockerton, one of the founding members was a beekeeper, and that was their thing. So they produce honey. But again, that's just because there was a beekeeper in the group, right?
Thank you.
It depends on that.
And Miho, final question.
Hi. So my question is about the caring aspect of the goals. As a training nurse, this is sort of my concern or interest, that whether you would be hoping to create your own sort of local community clinic, or would you be expecting everybody to be going to the pre-existing clinic in a local community, and how, if we're expecting to bring our sort of elderly parents with us, then access to healthcare is kind of very key. So what are your plans?
Yeah, so that's another very good question. And actually, you'll see, like, both the caring element and both the homeschooling element are kind of similar. And truth be told, I do not know enough about this stuff to have like a clear plan in this area. So I'm hoping that there might be people who know more about this, who are excited about the project. So I think it can work in either way. I think it can work in a way if it so happens that there is, I don't know, out of the 5 families, 4 people like can do this kind of stuff, then it's possible that you can create an on-site facility. I mean, if that's what we wish to do. If there isn't, then I think it makes it much simpler in practical terms, right? So it has to be a compromise and can work either way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.